Welcome to Apaga University. I'm Inga.
And I'm Julie. We are two
momtrepreneurs
who have built an in-home care business from the ground up, guided every step of the way by God's care and fueled by agape love.
16 years later and over 100 podcast episodes already under our belts, we invite you to continue on this journey with us as we share stories that resonate, insights that inspire, and practical guidance that empowers you to face any obstacle along this path.
Whether you're a professional caregiver, a family member, or are simply curious about what your steps will be when you need them, you have come to the right place.
Oh, hey, and while you're here, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
And after that, make sure you send this to a friend.
Yes, do it. All right, we'll quit fooling around and get to it.
Let's go. Class is in session.
Hello, Sunshine, and hello, Julie. How are you?
Well, I stayed up past 9 o'clock last night, so I'm a tad bit shaky.
I know, we're all a little chocolate wasted, I think is what you said this morning.
Yeah.
What were we thinking?
Yeah, right? Yeah, Lee.
We're too old to celebrate things.
Yeah.
Watch fireworks and listen to loud noises.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be going on now for a long time.
It's several days.
Several days before, several days after. So anyway, happy Independence Day, 4th of July. Mm-hmm. We're late now, so it's already happened, but we did celebrate
Better late than never.
How do your animals handle it?
Well, my teenager calves weren't so excited last night.
Yeah.
They were quite discombobulated for a while.
Yeah.
The dogs, they all have their little houses that they can go into. So at least they had that
kind of
comfort.
a shelter and
as good as they could get. But we were talking about it, and I really think that more people were able to celebrate big or willing to celebrate bigger than usual this year.
Yeah, we talked about that, and my initial thought is that it's been so much wetter, like so much more rain and moisture, that there aren't the restrictions I think that we've seen in the last few years. So it felt like at our house, we were just surrounded. Like it almost felt like you were in just a bomb shelter. I felt bad for our sheep and the dogs.
Oh yeah.
The only one that doesn't mind is Zeus. He doesn't mind it at all, but everybody else is just hunkered down, and the sheep are just fighting for their lives. It's terrible, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so pretty to see the fireworks, but I could do without all of the noise that goes along with it, and that makes me sound very old, doesn't it? It's mostly it's on behalf of the animals. But anyway, I thought, well, goodness, if we lose these sheep, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how we're going to get them back.
Reel them in.
But when they bunch up like that, I'm like, man, it looks like we have a lot more sheep than I thought we had. Normally they're kind of, dispersed out in the pasture, and it doesn't look like that many, but when they're all, grouped up, I was like, oh man, what did I allow myself to get into? Anyway.
It happens.
Yeah.
Before you even know it.
Yep. Well, anyway, we're going to try to muddle through this podcast, keep our eyes open, and be somewhat lively.
Yes. Just hang with us. Hang with us.
Yeah. Okay. So the verse, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verses 16 through 18. And it says, "So we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal."
Yes. The reason for that verse today is because in our last podcast, we talked about chronic pain, fibromyalgia. This time we're going to be talking about a specific disease called Huntington's disease. And we've got a couple of clients that have this disease. Yep. And it's a bugger. It's a horrendous thing.
It's a very unkind.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about all the aspects of it. But yet, even though we are put into these kinds of challenges, we're supposed to still just remember that the ultimate goal is to be a full body and to be healthy and, again. But man,
in the eternal
it's one of those things where you just got to work at it.
There are some really, really, really mean diseases out there.
Yeah.
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 I finally took Sammy's advice or threatening, I guess, something, and went and got my physical, because I'm like, the more we learn about this stuff, I'm like, well, probably better take care of myself a little bit more, get some of these tests done, schedule some things I've been putting off for, 46 years. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, there's some yucky stuff out there.
Yep.
Well, talk to me about your good news story.
Well, because of all the heavy topics, I actually found this thing and I thought it was very sweet. And it just says, be too much, be extra, live large, smile big, laugh hard, celebrate your damn self, open your heart, express your emotions, use your words, giggle, dance, soak in the sun, splash in the waves, breathe deep, and love your damn life. You only get one.
Oh, you know what every bit of that makes me think? I'm going to cry just thinking it. Live like Julie. Yeah, that's awesome. Oh. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to give you the Joel Osteen, and actually, again, with this heavy topic, mental strength, I think, is so important, and choosing to, try to pull the positive rather than getting sucked into the negative. And it's easy, obviously, for me to say, because you never know what somebody's circumstances are, but I just wanted to read this. And the scripture that goes along with this devotional is actually, remember the wonders he has performed, his miracles, and the rulings he has given. And it says, switch the channel. Emotional wounds are a powerful force in our lives and hold the potential to hinder our growth. If you're always reliving your hurts and watching your bad breaks on the movie screen of your mind, talking about them and telling your friends, that's just like reopening the wound. You may be in pain today, but don't sit around nursing your wounds. Don't let bitterness and discouragement set the tone for your life. As long as you are replaying the negative, you will never fully heal. You have the chance to change the channel. When you look back over your life, can you remember one time where you know it was the hand of God promoting and protecting you? Make the decision to switch over that channel. Get your mind going in a new direction. Start remembering your victories, your successes, and the hard times you overcame. Today can be a turning point in your life. Drop any emotional baggage you're dragging and step toward an abundant life. Trust God and step into the great future he has for you. It's just a reminder that and I think, like personally, we just as humans, you tend to always kind of just gravitate and pull back to those things. Oh, the bad things, and oh, this hurt me, or this situation was bad. And it's true when you're continually playing those things through in your mind, you can't break out of it, right? But you got to change the channel on that stuff and find the joy, or go outside and get your awe moment, or choose to be happy, choose to find something good.
There's some people that just unfortunately are unable to do that.
I know.
It's rough. And I think often about our work, what we do here, and not just the home care. Yeah. Because there's a lot of behind the scenes that people don't see. I mean, because there can be days that literally it takes 90% of my day just uplifting people and empowering people. And when a new family calls in and they're in the middle of a crisis, you can tell that they're just about to their breaking point. So you stop everything you're doing to lift them up.
Yes.
And it's very easy then for you to get so tired of that to then burn yourself out. So, along with that comes the self-care and stuff. But man, it's a lot of work to be optimistic all the time. Thankfully, the 99% of that comes to me naturally,
right?
Just because of my parents and everything that I was lucky enough to have. So it's very hard for me to understand when we have some people that cannot ever, in my thoughts, and it's not true, but it's like, to me, are they even trying to open a window?
Right.
Are they looking outside at the joy and the beauty of the day? Right. And what I try to teach myself is, I don't know what they're going through. And it's that's so funny that you picked that while I picked my little poem. Where that basically we're saying the same exact things. Yep. And, we just have to be there for each other.
Yes, for sure. And it is, like you said, I think some of us are just born with that optimism. For me, I know just like age and maturity has changed my mindset a ton. I've grown up a lot and that has helped me. But I think that, just as people, we do need to take the time to find something good. Yeah. Something that you're grateful for. There has to be something, and just start with that and then build on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Nope. It's within yourself.
I know that like when I'm working on projects, whether it's here at the office or on the farm, or if I go into it with a bad attitude and I'm, like have my head up my rear, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
It's going to be bad and it's not going to get good until I like mentally say, okay, enough of this.
Enough.
Turn it around.
Can't feel bad for myself.
Find some way to be thankful and grateful for the situation that you're in. And then it always turns it around. But I mean, you like, we set the tone for ourselves, right?
Yeah. Oh, we were talking earlier that just yesterday was July 4th. And we have to remember what that's about.
Yeah.
And here Nurse Susan sent us the cutest, the sweetest text.
Yes.
And when I read her text, it was about independence and the meaning of that. And I was just like, yes, guess what? Thankful and blessed.
Heck yeah.
And it was like, I needed her to say that just to reiterate the real importance of the day.
Yep.
And not just a day off from work, which it wasn't.
Just a day to go to the lake. Yeah, no, we're like a day to work on the farm, a day to shear sheep, move sheds.
But what a nice thing to just have somebody randomly send you something that hit the mark.
She's super good about that too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys have good news stories, if you have verses, anything you want to share with us, email those. You can do julie@ipagahomecare.com or inga@ipagahomecare.com, and make sure that you go and follow us and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss out on any of this goodness.
Yes, indeed. So Huntington's disease, very interesting disease. I did not know anything about it until we've ended up with a couple clients that we have, and we've had some throughout the years. So we've had probably at least 5 or 6 different, and I've always heard that Northwest Montana was like a particularly heavy spot for this disease. I Googled the heck out of that to try to find some actual, check the facts.
Like substance.
But it just, I couldn't find anything to prove that, even though it is a relatively rare situation. But we're going to just talk about what is Huntington's, because the 2 people that we have currently in our business is, one of the gals is just barely over 50. And then the other gentleman is in his early 60s. And it doesn't just affect them, it affects the whole family. Yeah. So let's talk about that.
Okay. So Huntington's is a rare inherited disease that causes a progressive breakdown or degeneration of nerve cells in the brain. So Huntington's has a wide impact on a person's functional abilities and usually results in movement, thinking, or cognitive and psychiatric disorders. Symptoms can develop at any time, but they often appear when people are in their 30s or 40s. If the condition develops before the age of 20, it's called juvenile Huntington's disease. So when it develops early, symptoms are somewhat different and the disease may progress faster. There are medications that can help manage the symptoms of Huntington's, but treatments can't prevent the physical, mental, or behavioral decline that is associated with the condition, sadly.
Right.
So cognitive disorders or impairments that often go along with Huntington's would be difficulty organizing, prioritizing, or focusing on tasks, the lack of flexibility or the tendency to get stuck on a thought, behavior, or action, a lack of impulse control, and this can, result in outbursts or acting without thinking type things, lack of awareness of one's own behaviors and abilities, also a slowness in processing thoughts or finding words, and difficulty in learning new information.
The movement disorders, involuntary movement, and impairments in voluntary movement, such as involuntary jerking or writhing movements, which is the chorea. And we're going to talk about chorea. Muscle problems such as rigidity or muscle contracture, slow or unusual eye movements, impaired gait, posture and balance, difficulty with speech or swallowing. So impairments in the voluntary movements rather than the involuntary may have a greater impact on the person's ability to work, perform daily activities, communicate, and remain independent.
Yeah.
Boy, the psychiatric disorders, the most common is depression. It just basically what I have seen with working with the people as we spend longer with them and we see the decline, it is like they just slowly shut down.
Yeah.
Not only personality wise, but they're always pretty monotone, and there is definite depression the way they move, the way they speak, everything. So feelings of irritability, sadness, social withdrawal, insomnia, fatigue and loss of energy, frequent thoughts of death, dying, or suicide. And the psychiatric disorders include the obsessive compulsive disorder, recurrent intrusive thoughts and repetitive behaviors, mania, which can cause an elevated mood, overactivity, impulse behavior, and inflated self-esteem. Bipolar is a condition that with alternating episodes of depression and mania. Also, weight loss is common in people with Huntington's.
Wow.
So.
And then on the juvenile side, some of the symptoms like behavioral changes. So basically start and progression of Huntington's in younger people may be slightly different than adults. Problems that often present early in the course of the disease would include behavioral changes like difficulty paying attention, rapid, significant drop in overall school performance. Again, behavioral problems. Physical changes could include contracted and rigid muscles that affect their gait. This is especially prevalent in young children. Tremors or slight involuntary movements, frequent falls or clumsiness, and seizures.
Yeah. So when to see the doctor when you notice changes of your movement, emotional state, or mental ability. The signs and symptoms of Huntington's can be caused by a number of different conditions. Therefore, it's important to get a prompt, thorough diagnosis. And then we're actually going to talk about a couple other where the physical stuff very much looks like a Parkinson's or something. And so I kind of brought that into there because it's, once again, there are some different diseases that they look so close to something else that is like, which one am I dealing with?
The physicality of it is very similar. Because as we're reading through some of these, I'm like, oh, that sounds like it could be a lot of things.
Oh,
so... Huntington's is caused by an inherited difference in a single gene. With the exception of the genes on the sex chromosomes, a person inherits 2 copies of every gene, 1 copy from each parent. A parent with a non-typical gene could pass along the non-typical copy of the gene or the healthy copy. Each child in the family, therefore, has a 50% chance of inheriting the gene that causes the genetic disorder. So, I mean, if it's in your family, it is
50-50.
It is 50-50,
so,
whether or not you'll pass it on.
For example, we took care of a gentleman years ago. He had it. And then he had 4 kids. Out of the 4 kids, the 2 daughters got it. The one daughter lives in a home at this point, and the second daughter that we are now taking care of, because he has since passed, is living with mother. And she has it. And so that right there shows an exact family situation. This gal, the younger gal that we're taking care of now, actually had 2 daughters. I don't think at this point the family knows who's got it, who doesn't. And it's scary for them.
How terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, because it is obviously hit that family hard.
Yeah. Complications. So after Huntington's disease starts, a person's functional abilities gradually worsen over time. The rate of disease progression and duration varies. The time from the first symptoms to death is often about 10 to 30 years. Anyway, juvenile Huntington's disease usually results in death within 10 years after the symptoms developed. The clinical depression associated with Huntington's may increase the risk of suicide. Some research suggests that the greatest risk of suicide occurs before the diagnosis is made and in the middle stages of the disease when a person starts to lose their independence. So eventually, a person with Huntington's requires help with all activities of daily living and care. Late in the disease, the person will likely be confined to a bed and unable to speak. Someone with Huntington's is generally able to understand language and has an awareness of family and friends, though some won't recognize family members. And the common causes of death with Huntington's: pneumonia or other infections, injuries related to falls, and then complications related to the inability to swallow. So it is not a nice...
So just like so many diseases, the name of it, the Huntington's disease, is not what kills them.
Right.
It's the things that come in because their body is in a depressed state, not able to fight off germs or any of that. So prevention, Basically, it's going to sound like it's going to sound. If it runs in your family, you're taking a really big risk if you continue to have children.
Yes.
So the only way to not have this disease is to not
have
continue the gene.
Yeah. So I wonder if they do they just do a genetic test to confirm Huntington's?
Yeah, it's helpful to meet with a genetic counselor, and to that they'll discuss the potential risks and discuss what would indicate that the parent was going to develop the disease. Also, couples will need to make additional choices about whether to have children or consider alternatives. And so there's all of that down the road that can be used to go from there. Because, I mean, there's people that want to have children.
Sure.
But how can we work around that genetic potential of a big problem? Yeah. So 10 surviving facts about Huntington's disease. It was also often called, when it first came out, Huntington's chorea, based on the Greek word describing a dance.
Oh, wow.
Symptoms include gradual loss of the ability to control movements. Eventually, people with Huntington's are able to walk or more independently and may lose the ability to swallow and speak. So about 30,000 Americans have Huntington's disease. And so that's a 0.009% of the population.
But still a lot.
Seems like it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that. And it's the defective HTT gene that causes the diseases we were talking. Symptoms don't usually occur until middle age. Juvenile Huntington's disease can affect people under 20. Genetic testing can reveal whether you're at risk. Pre-pregnancy planning can help at-risk couples. It is progressive. Medical treatment focuses on symptoms, not the actual disease. It will affect your mental health, and then support is essential because as you decline, you simply can't take care of yourself. We are with the one gal twice a week because she does have 24/7 with her mother. But when Sherry goes in there, it's just a joy because they will sing hymns together. On the beautiful days, they'll go outside. She's still able to ambulate without any problems. At some point, you know, if it gets too rough where she might be a significant fall risk, they'll still be able to go outside, but maybe with a wheelchair for safety. But right now, our whole point is to just bring joy.
Yes.
Help her with bathing if she needs it while we're there, and you know, all of the ADLs that we always do.
Sure.
But to try to get her to smile.
Yes.
She's one of the sweetest things. She's very gentle, very quiet, of course, with that disease. And if you're singing a song with her or you're talking or going through photographs, she doesn't always say a lot, but she'll, with that depression and stuff, you'll see her, a tear just slide down her eyes. And she's just very hard not to love.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And so it's really, really hard for her.
It's like you're trapped in your own body.
Exactly right. Yeah. And her husband is in the military, so he can't be around all the time because he's busy. And so there's that part of it. And
thank goodness for Mama.
Yes.
She has her 24/7, and Sherry, because Sherry's great. We get compliments on her all the time. I don't even know if I told you that the Veterans Home called the other day and talked to Kevin, just raving about our sweet Sherry.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, she's a gem.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the disease chorea. So Huntington's disease chorea. What does that look like? So it's the uncontrolled twisting or jerking, finger flicking, shoulder shrugging, facial twisting, flailing arms or legs, and excessive blinking. The movements can be large or small and tend to get worse with stress. They can also worsen or change over time. Chorea isn't just the most common symptom of Huntington's. For many, it is also considered one of the most impactful. So 90% of people with Huntington's experience chorea during their journey. 99% of the people with Huntington's or HD chorea in the survey required assistance with some activities of self-care.
The reason I wanted to talk about that is because when I see somebody and they're like holding their hand when they're talking to you and then they let go and they've got a tremor of some sort, I always assume Parkinson's, but doesn't mean that that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's this chorea. It's like, wait a minute. we need to be thinking bigger.
Yes.
And just know that there's something going on.
Well, and I think it's just learning and educating people to, because Parkinson's is, I guess in my mind, more well-known than Huntington's.
Exactly
so,
right.
Probably more people know or have some familiarity with Parkinson's, whereas Huntington's, it's not as high. And that's probably why.
Yeah.
They do say that when the chorea gets worse, it can make everyday activities and self-care just more and more difficult. Like walking and balance will be impacted. Talking, swallowing.
Yeah.
Of course, your ADLs, bathing, getting dressed, those types of things. And then any, shopping or activities that you're trying to do are going to be impacted by that chorea.
Yeah. So, like I said, as I was researching just the Huntington's, because that's where I started, all of a sudden it moved into this chorea. And then I was thinking about the involuntary things that you see people doing with the tremors or the tics. I was like, wait a minute, that seems like Parkinson's. And of course, there was an article out there about Huntington's disease versus Parkinson's. What are the differences? Yeah. So I was like, well, let's find out.
Let's talk about it.
Yes. So Parkinson's and Huntington's are both neurodegenerative diseases. These types of diseases occur when nerve cells in the brain or peripheral nervous system deteriorate and die off over time. While there is some overlap between the two in that they both affect movement, there are distinct differences. The main difference between them is their genetic makeup. Huntington's is the inherited disorder caused by the genetic abnormality, and Parkinson's
abnormality. It's hard. It's hard after
Words
4th
are
of
hard.
July.
Words are hard.
It's already hard, but it's really hard.
Parkinson's occurs when the nerve cells in the brain don't produce enough dopamine, which can be caused by a combination of genetic and environmental factors. So, anyway, so many of the symptoms are exactly the same. In the Huntington's, they start between 30 and 50 years old. The uncontrolled movements, the abnormal. See, look at the second time in 2 sentences. Abnormal body postures, changes in behavior, impaired coordination, slurred speech. Parkinson's is the tremors, like we were talking, and that's usually doesn't start till age 70. Even though it can be earlier.
Sure.
Rigidity, the bradykinesia, which is the automatic and spontaneous movement, slows, which makes it difficult to perform simple tasks, and then the body instability. So with Parkinson's and Huntington's, also, unfortunately, you get dementia.
These are so unkind.
Not very nice. Dementia is the general term for a decline in cognition and memory that we've talked about a lot, and it occurs in both of the diseases.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not nice. They're just not nice.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. So the difference between the Parkinson's and the Huntington's is the genetic factor.
Yes.
That really is what it boils down to. So because they're so similar otherwise.
Yep.
So,
well, in diagnosing, I think we talked about, so Huntington's, it's going to be that genetic testing, neurological exams, and then brain imaging. And on Parkinson's, your diagnosis is going to be, it can be a little bit more difficult, especially in the early stages, but they're going to kind of look at a lot of factors, right? Are you having tremors, rigidity, any of that? Bradykinesia, body imbalances. And then you need to seek out specialists if you are experiencing any of these things, because you need that support, like we talked about earlier, sooner rather than later.
Yes.
And sadly, there's no cure for either of them. So it's really just trying to treat and control the symptoms, right?
Yeah. Trying to slow the process of the disease. And they each have their different treatments, and, get out there and see what there is for you.
Yeah.
And so basically the biggest thing we have to think about is support for those that we know have it. As always, it just boils down to they're not going to be able to help just themselves.
Yeah.
So with that, what is the support to help them?
Yep. And think about like family support to who they're supporting also. I mean, it just like, it's far, far reaching.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no. With the help that we help our one little gal, she does live with mother, but the husband was like, is older in age at this point, she needs a break.
Yes.
So there are times that when we go there, well, every time mother leaves.
Yeah.
So she's got the afternoon, 2 afternoons a week to be able to go out and do whatever it is she's going to do. And for her own mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So support your support groups.
Support.
Yes. We all require a lot of support.
Oh boy, do we. Yes. There was just an article about in Montana again, about the fate of a young Billings woman. And she just talks about how Huntington's affected her family because first she watched her with her grandpa and then one of her parents, and then she found out she had it. And that must have been that juvenile stuff. And so anyway, very touching that she was like, I know what my fate is. And until that happens, I'm going to enjoy the hell out of my life.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Still just.
I mean, that takes a lot of mental toughness.
All the feels.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what will carry her for as long as can do because of that positive attitude.
Yep.
In what she
knowing
knows.
knowing that what the outcome is going to be, but making the best of it, while you get there.
Man, oh man, that's amazing. She's
good for
amazing.
her.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Grandpa Saints.
That was
downer.
That was a real downer.
That was such a downer. Let me find a good one here. Dressed to the nines means wearing your best clothes. Mm-hmm. And so the real meaning is there was no off-the-shelf suits in the 18th century. If you wanted one, you had it made especially for you. In those days, a suit included the waistcoat, and so it took 9 yards of fabric to complete.
Oh, wow.
So that's what meant dressed to the nines.
Oh.
Literally.
9 yards of fabric.
Yep.
Wow. That's cool. I love it. What was yours last week? Oh, under the weather.
Yes.
I used that the other day. I was like, man, I'm feeling under the weather. Woke up all like I had actually been on a ship.
On a boat.
Yeah. Anyway.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. If you, like we said earlier, if you haven't yet, go subscribe. Mm-hmm. And if you have things that you want to share with us or you want us to share with the rest of the world, please email those to inga@apagahomecare.com or julie@apagahomecare.com.
Yes, and sorry for the heaviness today, but
I know.
Life is that.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one that it's like a grandma saying, but it's actually from our insurance agent. Clarity is kindness.
Uh-huh.
I love that so much. And some of this stuff, even though it's like it sucks. There's no way around it. It's just really heavy information, right? But knowing, I think, is better. You can do something with it, right?
A really big deal. I love that because I think that's what our whole goal here with the podcast is education.
Yes.
And so for him to have said that, he didn't even know that he was...
I've used it like 100 times since then. I'm like, clarity is kindness. That's Doc. You knocked it out of the park on that one, buddy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. There you go. I love it. We're finishing on a high note.
Yes. Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Have a good day.
The Caregiven name is a registered trademark of the Veritrust Health Incorporated Company. IPAGA is not connected to, affiliated with, or endorsed by Veritrust or any of its affiliates.